The third quarter of the Pacers season is over. What, if anything, was learned about the team in that stretch of time? Plus, Micah Potter and Kobe Brown, are they auditioning to be long-term pieces for the Pacers? Sean Trader and I from the Pacers Pulse podcast talk about all that and Cam Jones on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today, a new guest in the Locked On Pacers orbit, Sean Trader from the Pacers Pulse podcast, joins us to talk about the recent stretch of Pacers play. They're about 3/4 of the way through the season. That third quarter, what went well for them? They had a 9-9, 18-game stretch. They also have currently lost 6 in a row. They made a trade. They had good games and bad games. What did we learn about the team? What does it mean for them long-term? What just happened? Because a lot of significant movement on both the team and player level. Then we talk about two guys competing to be potentially on the Pacers next year at all in the fourth quarter of the season. Micah Potter playing quite well of late. Kobe Brown, some good and some bad since his trade from the Clippers to the Pacers. What do we assess of them? And Sean wanted to talk about Cam Jones, so we talked about Cam Jones. Let's just get right to it. A new guest here in the Locked On Pacers orbit. It's Sean Trader from the Pacers Pulse podcast. If you listened to that, you heard me babbling about 3 weeks ago. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was a great time, and I would like to chat more about the Indiana Pacers with Sean. So he is here today to talk about the third quarter of the Pacers season, which featured some great stretches and currently some terrible stretches. Quentin Jackson has a new contract. Two guys are auditioning to be in the team next year. We have a lot to get to, but Sean, hello, welcome. I hope my listeners love you just as much as I did talking to you a couple weeks ago.
It was a pleasure having you on, Tony. And like I told you then, you were my first ever guest on Pacers Pulse podcast. Yes. So it's an honor to be on Locked On Pacers. Been listening forever. And like you said, I had a great time talking to you about before the trade deadline, just kind of the rumors that were going around during that time, but a lot of fun. Yeah. So
did we talk after the Jazz game? Like, were we the day before the Zubac trade? I can't remember exactly when it was.
Yeah, we were like, I think it was like a day before the Zubac trade went down and all that. And this might have been like the week before the deadline even.
I think you're right. Because it's funny you say that, because I was going through, as we were going to talk about the games 42 through 60 or whatever, roughly the third quarter of the Pacers season. Yeah. And you go back and they, in the first 20 games, were 4-16, and then they were 5-16 in the next 21 games. And I thought in my head, because around when we were talking, they were playing pretty well. And the fine happened in the game that happened right around then. And the big talking point at that time was, oh my gosh, they're 9-9 in their last 18 games. And so I thought, when I was writing down their record from each quarter that's of the season that's happened so far, I thought, okay, the third quarter one is going to be way better, because I remember they had a 9-9 stretch, but it like perfectly overlapped between the two, that it was 4-16 in the first 20 games, 5-16 in the next 21 games, and then 6-14 in the last one. So the record doesn't show it because of the goofy timing. You and I talked when they were playing pretty well, but I thought that was very weird. I thought for sure this last quarter is going to be like, oh, cool, they're actually decent. It just turns out these last couple of games have really sunk that.
Yeah, it's like turned around pretty quickly, right? Especially after the trade happened. And you could just tell, obviously, with the pick protections and all that, they were going to pivot, of course. And it was kind of going that way anyways, of course. But yeah, it's just it fully solidified our direction for the rest of this season. That's for sure, I think. And
yes,
well, I like seeing the losses personally.
The 6 losses since, like I have in my notes, they were 6-8. And their first 14 games of this third quarter. And that's about when they beat the Knicks, they beat the Nets going to the break, and everybody's like, oh, cool. Like, this is the team everybody kind of thought they could be. And then a couple injuries pop up, but the trades really changed their motivation. And they also, I don't think this can be like overstated enough, because their motivation for wins now, they're not going to make the playoffs, is already kind of low. The trade they made certainly puts a cap on how much they like probably will be willing to win. But also, I should know, in February, they played Utah, they played Brooklyn, they played the Wizards twice, they played the Mavs, and they played the Grizzlies. In all of March, they only play one bottom 8 team. They play the Kings, and that's it. So they don't have to have as many of these like depressing, I would say, games where both teams have incentive to maybe not put their best foot forward, which will be more fun. But also, like, as of you and I talking right now, like, I don't think that 6-14 is actually reflective of the third quarter the Pacers had, because they were 6-8 in the first 14 of those 20 games, and then they lost 6 in a row. And they had a 9-9 stretch that kind of overlapped from the second quarter to the third quarter, from like mid-January to early February. Do you agree that it at least felt better than a 6-14 record suggests?
Yeah, I would agree. And so that was before like the All-Star break and all that too. So we were still trying to get like Siakam into the All-Star game. So obviously we weren't just like desperately trying to lose games during that time, but it definitely felt a lot better. And it's kind of funny, like when you put it like that, looking back on it, it's like, wow, it actually wasn't as good as we maybe would have thought, or just, and I think most of Pacer Nation is, I would say, happy with that result right now, just because of the direction we are trying to take right now in terms of losing, trying to strengthen our draft odds. So I guess oddly enough, it did favor in what direction we really need to go. And obviously you never want to cheer for like losing and whatnot, but the way you mentioned all those bottom teams we've been playing the last couple of weeks, we've actually came out on the right outcome, I would say, besides like what team beat us, what bottom team?
They beat Brooklyn on the Cam Jones buzzer beater. Yeah.
And I was happy for Cam Jones on that play. Yeah. I really was. So I was torn on that like outcome. I was like, great moment for Cam Jones, but wanted to lose the game kind of at the same time. But we at least have like lost to the Wizards, the Grizzlies, the Mavs, all these other bottom out teams. And then, like you said, the schedule is going to, I guess, get a little harder this next month. So like you said, it would be like maybe a little bit more tolerable in terms of what kind of basketball we'll be watching, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, the schedule did not help. And I think that a couple things happened. One is, maybe this is just my own belief being spilled as ink on behalf of the Pacers, but part of me thinks that if you are a player on the Pacers, a decision maker for the Pacers, a coach, whatever, like you wanted to know for sure that injuries were the reason you sucked to start the season. And so having a stretch, and this bleeds a little bit into the second quarter, but we can pick a date just to be clear about what we're saying. Like they beat Charlotte on January 8th, and then they went 9-9 until February 11th. So over a month, they were a 500 team. Like partially in my head, and if I'm working for the team, this is in my head too, I think a lot of optimism going into the season, they'd be at least like, okay. I think most people believe they'd be about a 500 team, a little under that. I think their preseason win over underline in the sports books was 37.5 or something like that's pretty close to a 500 team. So I do think that there is part of, if you're a decision maker, knowing that that's correct. This team would have been somewhere between 38 and 44 wins if they had a full season of normal-ish health, right, from their best players. And so 18 games is too shy of a quarter of the season. So it's a little loose to say what I'm saying, but I think that they'll be happy to know that for about a fourth of a full NBA season, they were that level of team, the level of team that they thought was possible for them to be. So now, of course, and the NBA has the NBA sets the rules that make it so that teams are incentivized to lose. The Pacers certainly added to those incentives with the specific trade that they made. But I do think it was not easier, but just for the season they hoped to have, to go almost a quarter of the season as a 500 team, to just like take a deep breath and be like, okay, these players are still good. We're still good. Tyrese Haliburton will come back and this team will be good. And Zubats will play eventually too. They were just so hurt that it was impossible. And so among the things learned in the third quarter, which is like the question I'm basically going to overview ask you, is like the big takeaway to me would be this team was supposed to be at least okay to good, and maybe have been as 500 would be in the East. What would that be? 8th-ish, 7th-ish, like about that level of team. And many factors made that impossible. So right now they're playing bad, and they're playing a lot of young guys, and they're experimenting with lineups, and they should be doing that. The incentives say they should be doing that. But I do think the third quarter revealed that they would have been the team that many thought they could be had they had normal health most of the season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that goes into their evaluation too, even of like trading for a Zubats, right? And like doing it now. So they're like, all right, we obviously aren't as bad as like what our record would suggest. We just had a lot of injuries, a lot of freak injuries. And I think that's what's like bothering me too with like all the tanking talk, is like people are just like, oh, like the Pacers are just tanking out, bottoming out, which may be true to an extent, but it's like, would we have ever predicted we'd had so many injuries? Like we weren't supposed to be in this spot regardless.
Right.
So to me, that's kind of like the argument. It's like, it's not like we just came into this season like, oh, we're going to bottom out from the get-go. We just had all these injuries we were dealing with. And like you said, I think we would have been in like that 7th to 8th range. We'd be like the Miami territory, right? Like Orlando.
I agree.
So it's just, that's what bothers me about the tank talk and how we got fined with all that too. But like, I do think that it allowed us to at least know that, hey, we're still able to like compete at that kind of level, especially with Tyrese. So I agree with what you're saying. And I just think that it makes me feel more like at ease, like as a Pacer fan, knowing that we're going to be able to hopefully reach that level again next season. And we can at least like maximize the rest of this year, strengthen our lottery odds, and hopefully get a top 4 pick to add to this roster. And that kind of makes it scary to me for like the rest of the NBA if we're able to do that.
Like for like 3 years, probably, or possibly. Everybody, quick break. We got to talk about Indeed. Workplace chaos. Deadlines are stacking up. Your inbox is overflowing. And the one position you have to fill, it's still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire. That's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. They'll help you reach people who actively fit what you're looking for with skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I'm talking to you about Indeed, companies like yours make 27 hires on their platform according to their data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Less searching is great. Instead, you need more results, more time, and less stress. And that is where Indeed sponsored jobs can help you cut through the chaos. Listeners of this show will get a $75 job credit sponsored to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support this show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Pacers. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Back here on Locked On Pacers, thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Make Locked On Wizards your second listen because Trae Young is playing this weekend critically for the Pacers. He's playing in Wizards versus Jazz. And hey, check out the Locked On Pacers or your favorite Locked On podcast, Every Dayer Club. You can get Locked On Pacers ad-free with the Every Dayer Club, plus a members-only Discord access. Join at the URL you can see on the screen on YouTube. If not, it's lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Now let's keep going with Sean Trader. The other difference to me, to like put a book on this before getting into individuals, the first time they had like a good stretch, right? They started 1-13 and then they went 5-5 heading into the NBA Cup break. And that was like good results. But that stretch, a big talking point, at least for me, maybe I overdid it, was their 5 wins were Sacramento, Washington, Chicago twice, and Charlotte. And that was before Charlotte was good. Like they just beat bad teams then. This time, when they went 9-9 over an 18-game stretch, they beat Charlotte when Charlotte was good, and they beat Miami, and they beat Boston, and they beat the Thunder, and they beat Atlanta, and they beat the Knicks, and a couple of those games were on the road, like real basketball team wins, right? So, again, I think reinforcing that had they played that cupcake part when they were healthy earlier, they might have done a little better. The other big mid-season kind of, or two, there were really two in the third quarter that popped to me from individuals was Andrew Nembhard's stamp of like, okay, this guy can be the point guard of at least a halfway decent team because he was struggling in his earlier games in the season after coming back from injury, but then he was, I think, 5th in the NBA in assists in the month of January. Like he was really moving it, playing very well. And the ascent of Jarris Walker from like, oh my gosh, this guy can't make a shot to, oh, Jarris Walker is actually a better player from last season. Furphy would have been on this list. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL during the quarter too. But those two players, I think, were the most improved guys in terms of long-term impact for the group.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously, like Nembhard in a new role, like start this season out. It was going to take him time to really like get to know how to play point guard, run an NBA offense. So I wouldn't say like concerned at the beginning of the year, but obviously it took like a while for him to get used to that role. And like you said, he really like kind of took the reins, especially when you said he was like top 5 in the NBA during the month. You said like January, right?
Yep.
During that month where he was like one of the best assist men in the whole entire NBA. You could just really see it as the season went on. He got more and more comfortable. And that's going to be even more crucial, obviously, when like Haliburton comes back next year. He's not going to be 100%. It's going to take him time to kind of like ease back in. You never know if he's going to need like more rest or however they go about his minutes next year too, like games played. So having Nembhard being more comfortable in that role is only going to mean that much more. And then like on the Jarris front, I'm going to be completely honest. For a while there, I was like completely out on Jarris. I was like, I was including him just about in every trade, like scenario that I was going over and talking about. And he really like has almost like proved me wrong, I would say, in the last couple of months. And I want to see how it progresses throughout the rest of the season. So I don't want to like just discount what happened in the beginning of the year, but he's definitely like turned it around. His jump shot has like just drastically changed. Like we know he's been a decent shooter in his career, And I've been loving like the last couple weeks, even like his like rebounding numbers have been higher, like 10 plus a couple games there, assist games. If he can cut down on the turnovers too, I'll worry about that. But he's had a few like beautiful passes, certain games where there was one game where he like caught the ball like at the free throw line, had like a quick behind the back pass. So I think that like Taylor Peter in the corner for a 3. So you just see like those highest of high plays from Jarris, and that's what all of us Pacer Nation hope to like see from him. And I'm excited to see like if he continues that play the rest of this year.
He saved his early season by making threes. Now he's saving his season by doing all the other things that you've talked about that go beyond threes. I spoke incorrectly, Sean. I said Andrew Nembhard was 5th in assists in January. That's incorrect. He was 3rd. A late surge put him above Luka and James Harden. It was John Morant first, who only played 3 games, so that barely even counts. Cade in second. Andrew Nembhard's 9.2 assists per game that month at 3rd. Right, clearly growing the actual like point guard part of point guarding from an NBA level. He played that position at many other levels before. Okay, I want to spin this forward now. The fourth quarter of the season is coming. It's going to look different for many of the reasons we talked about for their ongoing 6-game losing streak. But tough opponents coming up on the road, right? Outside of the Kings, they don't play like a truly terrible team until early April. To me, there will be 2 big things that will be talked about a lot in the fourth quarter of the season. One is about 2 guys who are certainly NBA level players, kind of establishing what their role should be next year. And that's Jarris is one of them, and Ben Shepherd's the other one. But the other one that I want to talk to you more so about today is 2 guys kind of fighting for a spot, perhaps on the Pacers, perhaps in the NBA, wherever that goes. And we can bleed a third guy into this that you suggested we perhaps talk about today. And one they just acquired in a trade in Kobe Brown, and the other one they signed a little bit ago in Micah Potter, who's just making every shot recently. Team option for Potter next year. They need a third center. Kobe Brown, big uphill fight. He's probably the least likely of the 2 to be back. I'll let you decide which one of those 2 we talk about first, but they're both certainly auditioning for something, whether that's with the Pacers, whether that's in the NBA. Who do you want to start with of those 2? Because I think they are both going to be of critical notes basically every night the rest of the way.
Let's start with the newest guy, Kobe Brown.
So it already has, I hate, like, this sounds harsh, but he's already kind of exceeded what I thought he would do for the Pacers. Like, he never did any of this for the Clippers. He scored in double figures twice in 2.5 years for them. He already has done it 3 times for the Pacers. So maybe that's flukish. Like, he made more threes than his stats suggest should happen for him. Okay, fine. Maybe he was warm for a couple games, but that dude, if he is within 10 feet of the basket and there's a shot up, he's got a chance to get it. I think he only had 1 rebound in the last game, maybe 2. But like generally, I think that is like a real skill that if the season ended today, I could go, okay, Kobe Brown can at least rebound. I don't know that's enough that he should have a roster spot for the Pacers next year, especially because if they draft somebody, there's just no room for him to play at all. But he is at least, to me so far, shown like, okay, this is not like when they traded for him, you know, he had shot less than 40% with the Clippers this season and couldn't really make threes and barely ever played for them. Like, it was like, is this even an NBA player? And I'm like, yeah, he's like probably belongs on one of the teams, but he's got a lot of work to do to me prove that he should be in the mix for anything serious with the Pacers next year, even with good play so far.
Yeah, I agree. And that's been the biggest thing I've been impressed with Kobe Brown is his rebounding. Of course, he's had some pretty good rebounding games. I think he had like 9 rebounds a couple games ago, something like that. So
10.
Yeah, 10, 9. Like he's had like high like rebounding numbers, and it's something that I guess I didn't expect. He's had a few other aspects of his game that I didn't really expect, but kind of like as you started this off, I didn't really have high expectations for Kobe Brown coming in anyways. So anything he does that shows that he can kind of do some things in the NBA is going to probably impress me as of right now. And the fact that he's been shooting close to like 40% since he's been with the team from 3 is kind of encouraging. If he can keep that up, to be determined, I don't know. I do think like he's shown some passing, somewhat like ability. Like, and I'm not saying like he's not just throwing guys open, but he does make the right reads at times. And even for like being a guy that's not played in our system, I think I've been somewhat impressed with that. And then his defense is just too like choppy for me to where it's like he has some plays like where it looks okay, then others where it's like he's too slow footed or he's just too short for like taller guys, of course. So it's a mixed bag in my review, but he's definitely like outperformed my expectations. And like you said, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to grab that last rotation spot, especially if we get a top 4 pick in this next draft.
I would say his chance to be on the team, I mean, first of all, it'd probably require that they don't get the pick, would be like he's okay being the 15th guy, basically, because his bird rights would matter for the Pacers, but they have them now, but it doesn't matter because his rookie scale contract, such a confusing situation. I don't want to really get into that right now, but yeah, so to your point about expectations, like the 15-point game that he had 4 games ago, that he obviously had never done that before. And I talked about him after that game. People wrote about him. We talked to him like he deserved it. He played very well and deserved all the credit and attention he was getting. Since then, he's 1 for 9 from the field, right? Like that is reflective of, and that's in 3 games. Like that has happened to him with the Clippers before, where it's like a nice game here and then a couple stinky ones. The rebounding has been great. He has 16 in the 3 game since, 4 assists against Philly. And to your point, something that stood out to me and what I have kind of asked him about a few times is like a guy comes to the Pacers system. And Jay Huff, it took a month for him to know how quickly to move the ball, where to go, what to do. That's happened for many a guy before. It takes a little bit of time with how fast the Pacers play. It takes a lot of reps for their style to really get going. Like Kobe Brown, immediately the ball never stuck with him. If he needed to keep it moving, he would drive in the paint and then kick it to somebody on the perimeter. He would immediately turn and flip it to somebody instead of screen. I'm not saying it like never bogged down with him, but that all immediately was like, okay, like he knows how to play. Like that's a very generic way of putting it. And that matters, right? So I don't think he's as bad as his Clippers tenure stats suggest. Per 36 with the Pacers, he is barely scoring more. Like he's playing so much more that his stats are incomparable, but he's scoring a little more than he ever did with the Clippers. He's rebounding more than he did except for his second season in the league, but his assists are actually down. You want to see more of that, the ball movement there, but the offensive rebounds are way up. A lot of stuff is at least approaching good levels. And of course, critically, both his field goal percentage inside and outside the arc are higher than they were anytime with LA. So doing stuff that he's never done before, also getting a lot more opportunities to prove it. I wonder how much that'll help him. The other critical factor in terms of betting on him as a former first-round pick young guy is he's 26, right? So he's got to prove that, and I think anybody does for the Pacers. They're trying to win a championship like next year. He's got to prove he can help you win today, right now. And the rebounding is certainly a thing. The defense, he plays like he's 6'7", 6'8". I think he's closer to 6'5", but he can move. He's stocky. He plays bigger than his size. So a player that belongs in the NBA, yes. Can he prove he belongs in the Pacers next year? I still think he's got work to do for that. I think we both agree there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
One more break here, everybody. Talk about 2 great groups of people. First up is BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's a new month. There's always a lot of time and pressure where you feel like you need to make changes and be a new you. New month, times on the calendar come, but sometimes you don't need to reinvent yourself. You need to feel a little less weighed down, and therapy can help you understand what has been holding you back by giving you outside perspective on your emotions, motivations, and relationships. And that is why BetterHelp can be such a helpful place to start. Their therapists are fully licensed in the U.S. They work under a strict code of conduct. BetterHelp will match you with a licensed therapist based on your needs and preferences. And if the right match isn't the right fit right away, you can switch to another therapist from their tailored recommendations at any time. BetterHelp has served over 5 million people with more than 30,000 therapists, and live sessions average a 4.9 out of 5 rating across more than 1.7 million client reviews. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Let's also very quickly talk about FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board, and FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins. With a college basketball parlay profit boost, you can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever. Fits right in your head, and you can mix spreads, you can mix totals, you can mix player props, match how you see the slate playing out. Boom! You apply a profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style now, with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Micah Potter, Sean, we're talking about him at an interesting time because his last 3 games have been really good. 60 points in Micah Potter's last 3 games. He had never scored 20 in a game in the NBA ever as of 4 games ago. And now he's averaging that over a 3-game span, albeit only one of them actually reaching that 20-point threshold. And yes, he's shooting pretty well. 2 for 3 from deep against Memphis, 5 for 7 against Charlotte, 3 for 5 against Philly. Obviously, going 10 for 15 from 3 is going to make you look pretty good on the point totals, but he's just shown this offensive connection with the Pacers guards that is very encouraging. And every time he's in there, it's like, okay, he's scoring. He's +1 in a game they lose by 24 against Charlotte. He's -8 in a game they lose by 21 against Philly. Like, they're doing better in his minutes than not his minutes. And then he has a terrible defensive night against Memphis. Omax Prosper is eating his lunch. Unfortunately, like he still played overall well in that game, but I still think that he has shown enough to be like a third center. It crept into my mind when they were playing Charlotte, like, man, could he actually be their backup 5 ahead of Jay Huff? I don't know where you stand on that, but I think that he is probably right now, right above the line of, I think it'd be okay if he was the Pacers' third center next year. If he falls off, maybe that would go away, but I think he's going to have to use this last quarter of the season to prove that he is worthy of that spot. He is playing well right now, though.
Oh, yeah, and who would ever thought we would say that kind of sentence, like Micah Potter scoring 60 points for our team this year, like in a 3-game stretch. It's pretty unreal, and I've actually been very impressed with Micah Potter since he's even joined the team, and had zero expectations with him, of course, too. Didn't know anything about his game, really. He could just shoot from 3 a little bit, but just the fact he's been kind of like a steady offensive force for us out there when we don't have Siakam or Nembhard or anybody else, essentially, that can put the ball in the basket. It's been encouraging to see, and just I've actually – even something like outside of basketball I like about Micah Potter is just when you see the post-game interviews and how he's just so like engaging with like any questions that's asked of him, and just you can kind of just feel it, I guess, in his spirit that he's like thankful for the opportunity he has right here. And I just think he's like a great locker room guy too. So I think that I would really like him to be with the team moving forward, and you could at least keep that optionality. He can be released anytime, and we can open up another roster spot if we needed, but I do like him as like that third rotation big. Or I was even thinking today, I was like, well, what if we kind of did like almost a center by committee approach with the backup center next year, where it's like, all right, play the hot hand. Is Jay Huff having a rough stretch? Okay, then go with Micah Potter, vice versa, just whoever's playing better during that stretch. And it's not like we always have to play like a center in the backup spot all the time, because we'll have Obi Toppin playing small ball, or like we did with like Furphy and Siakam. And I know Furphy's out for a while, but you never know if we land a top 4 pick, if we end up getting a guy at the power forward spot that could kind of play some small ball 5. So I think we just have a lot of optionality where we're not going to have to like just fully rely on them playing heavy minutes at like the backup 5. But I do like him in there.
All good points, and Potter himself can play the 4, which Rick Carlisle's brought up a few times. You're right, he is very thoughtful in answers, which I appreciate. And he doesn't have to like pause and think about it. Like he is already like, this is already a thought that's in his brain at some point in time. So yeah, he is. I think I probably am overreacting when I say that he might be like, oh, should he be the backup next year? That's probably not true. Like Huff is a better player than he is, and he's currently having the best stretch of probably his entire NBA career. I don't even think that's a probably, which is great, and that's gotten him to like consideration. And yeah, they'll have a lot of options between once Furphy's back, especially the small ball stuff they've been doing, the small ball lineups with Toppin, plus of course Zubac, who's not played yet. And last year we saw when Thomas Bryant was making every 3 for 2 months after they traded for him, they rolled with him, and they mostly stuck with him. But there was like a couple games where like, okay, Tony Bradley will be better than Thomas Bryant tonight. We're going to play Tony Bradley. It happened that the finals was one of those series, and Tony Bradley played often in that series. He played against the Knicks too. Like there will be times when a more mobile Potter is more valuable. So perhaps you're right that committee approach could be a thing. And if they believe in the Furphy, Toppin, Zubats, everything is enough. They don't need a third center. You're right. It's non-guaranteed. Can move on from him. So that's why he still has to prove it. You want a crazy stat, Sean?
Yeah.
Entering his time with the Pacers, Micah Potter had played 64 NBA games and had a total of 251 points scored. He has played now 28 games for the Pacers and has scored more points than that, 260 just with the Pacers in about a third of as many games. Obviously playing way more, but like he's proving a lot compared to the options he'd gotten with past teams and doing it efficiently, making threes, his second best season inside the arc ever, and his same with Kobe Brown, because you have to think about opportunity. A lot of his per minute numbers, basically outside of rebounding, are all at or above his career best numbers. So he's playing well. I personally would like to see better defense from him down the stretch to like really cement a spot for next year. But I think he's earned like at least a look in training camp next year. And has the current inside track, I would say, to be their third center, unless he plays poorly or if the shots don't go in for a week, how we feel. But certainly right now, I would say the inside track, a big fourth quarter topic.
Yeah, that's definitely just my only concern is his defense too. Like that's probably what's kept him out of the NBA because obviously offensively he can do some things, but it's just he's too short to be like a rim presence, and then he's too slow-footed to like guard guys on the perimeter a lot of times from what I've seen. So it's just he's almost like a tweener in that sense. But if he can improve on that, then for sure I agree.
Mobile enough, but you're right that it's like just in between what you'd hope for. All right, I'll let you do this, Sean. Your last email to me before this said, maybe we could talk about some Cam Jones if we have time. I can count him as a guy. He's half guaranteed next year. I would say right now, more likely than not, he'll be on the team. Quentin Jackson maybe clouds that a little, but what did you want to talk about with Cam Jones? Because he kind of falls in this category of like kind of fighting for a spot next year, maybe not.
Yeah, he's in between, but I think what I threw that in there is just because he's probably like the one I'm most fascinated with for the rest of this year for whatever reason. I'm curious to see what he can do, and just the fact that he's had these like high assist games lately. I know he's like struggled with turnovers lately too, but you could tell he's getting more and more comfortable out there, more confident. And it's more interesting to me that his playmaking game, because he didn't start playing point guard till like his senior year in college because he played with Tyler Kolek and Marquette. So he really didn't start playing that till then, and just seeing him playing that role still with the Pacers now and like having a game where he had 10 assists. I mean, to me, that's nothing, like it's showing that you have at least some sort of skill as like a passer, and he makes skip passes and he's able to get into the paint a little bit, even though like he's never going to beat somebody with like a quick first step, or I don't know. He just knows how to like manipulate the defense in a way where he's starting to like learn how to like move on the court against NBA caliber defenders and whatnot. He's just a very interesting player to keep an eye on to me the rest of the year.
He is. I think a lot of that said he's probably the biggest question mark. Like we just have no clue what this is, what the long-term spot is, if he's above Q in the eyes of the front office in terms of long-term vision. I don't even know how to phrase this perfectly. I said this a lot about Isaiah Jackson this year, so I suppose I've kind of talked about it before. So like Cam just had a double-double. That's great. He had 10 assists. He moved the ball moderately well, but he had like some ugly turnovers running into crowds. And, I think his 10 points were barely, 11 shots, right? His 13-point game earlier, he had 11 shots. He had a 10-point game with 4 shots against Dallas. That was great. So he's mixed in some efficient games, some inefficient, some high passing games with 11 assists, but also 6 turnovers. What I'm mixing the good and bad to say, I would like Cam Jones to have a game where at the end of the game, I'm making this stat line up, but something like 9 points and 5 assists, and he was almost like invisible, because that means he was just blending in so well that he had like a normal backup guard stat line without just like loud mistakes or like every time he shoots, it's a noteworthy possession, like all in the flow. He scored the first 8 points against, I think, the Hornets, and it was like open corner 3 catch and shoot, little wiggle around a defender for a bucket. It's like natural offense stuff, like that kind of game where it's just a slow drip over 4 quarters to get there. Because right now it feels like it's like one bad half and one great one, or just a lot of mixed bag. I would like that from him in this fourth quarter to really feel good about like, okay, he couldn't play the first quarter of the whole season. He's starting behind everybody in terms of his rookie year. Does he have time to get to that point this year? I think that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, that back injury definitely held him back, of course. And you can tell like he's starting to move a lot better and whatnot too. He's definitely like flawed, but I do think that he could end up being like a pivotal role at some point if we need some relief at the point guard position with TJ McConnell getting like older. He's like 35 years old. And like you said, I don't know how the front office views Quentin Jackson over Cam Jones. So who's to say that like they just like Quentin Jackson better and they decide to let Cam Jones go, next year. And just
and to be clear, presently, Quentin Jackson is way better. Like it's not even close, right? Yeah. Cam is younger in a project, but yes, that's what I mean by how they view that.
It depends on like how they view that whole situation. So It's just, and I wouldn't blame him. Quentin Jackson definitely has like proven his worth since he's been with the team, and he's obviously improved as a 3-point shooter this year too. So Cam has a ways to go to like catch up to him. But like you said, if he can figure out how to like blend in with the team more, like he did like during that Sixers game, where he did score like 8 points in the beginning of that game, where he was just kind of blending into the offense. But I can't remember. Did Nembhard play that game too? Was he playing like as a primary ball handler that game? I can't remember.
Which one? Sorry.
I think it was the Sixers game when he played like where he had like 13 points. Cam Jones. I just can't remember for sure.
Yes, the 13-point game against Philly, Andrew Nembhard did play.
So he was kind of playing more of like the off-ball guard. So maybe he's just kind of playing. They're playing him out of position to kind of make him uncomfortable, I'm sure, to like grow. So maybe that's where
like a lot with another. That's what I think their last game. I was like, oh, it's only Cam. Like he's played a lot with starting with Drew, and they've even had him out there with Q and TJ or Q and Andrew. I'm like, whoa, this is very small. But he's a lot of times had another guard with him. But you're right, and you're right to point out that recently that has been the case less so.
Yeah. So very curious to see. So just like I said, probably the number one guy I'm watching outside of like Jarris, of course, and Kobe Brown, like some of those other guys, Micah Potter, just to see where they can place with this team. Very curious.
Hate to dumb it down this much for Cam Jones in the last quarter, but currently his true shooting percentage is below 50%. That's very bad. In college, he made his twos. He did not make his threes when he was the primary ball handler. His free throw percentage has always been in the 70s. So like it's boring. But guess what? Playing in the NBA, you got to be able to put the ball in the basket, right? And so that's also a big note for him the rest of the way. Sean, tell people about Pacers Pulse, where they can find you and your podcasting work covering the Pacers.
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts at Pacers Pulse Podcast. I also post on YouTube. I post every video or podcast on YouTube as well. I'm at Pacers Pulse Pod on X, Pacers Pulse Podcast on Instagram, and I just cover everything with the team, guys. Like from a fan perspective, I do game recaps, player development stuff, kind of like what we talked about today. And I love doing a lot of draft content too, which is maybe kind of like what separates me somewhat is like I do a lot of like player evaluations from the draft, even kind of like as soon as now I've been doing like the Bonsa breakdowns or Peterson breakdowns, Cam Boozer, guys that we know that we're going to pick in the top 4, essentially, if we get the pick. So I just thought it's been more relevant. I do a lot of trade talk, but yeah, if you guys would be interested in that kind of content, like just come check it out, and always appreciate the listen.
You're way ahead of me. People are asking me for draft stuff, and I have done a whopping none yet. So that's
I get it.
A little slackworthy. But April, I will be all over the NCAA basketball experience before the lottery. It's nice. I only have to watch 4 guys, right? I don't have to really wade into the rest of the lottery like in past years, which is kind of nice.
That's what makes it easier this year. So narrows it down. We only have to pay attention to those guys. The rest, it's kind of like whatever.
If they specifically get the 4th pick, maybe I'll watch like the 5th, 6th, and 7th guy. Like, is there a chance these guys are better than the consensus 4th guy? I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm getting way ahead of myself.
It's a toss-up, like you said. We never know till then.
That is true. May 10th, everybody. We are 2 months and 7 days away. Sean, thank you very much. This was very fun. Everybody will be back tomorrow talking about the other 2 guys, the fighting for rotation next year guys, in their 4th quarter of the season, Ben Shepherd, Jarris Walker, etc., plus other things that I decide are important to talk about because I have not come up with a list yet. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you very soon.